Why do some people spend their entire lives working hard, yet never become wealthy, while others seem to build fortunes that only grow with time? More than 4,000 years ago, in the ancient city of Babylon, one ordinary man discovered a simple secret that transformed him from a poor scribe into the richest man in the greatest city on earth. His wisdom has survived the rise and fall of empires, inspired millions around the world, and it still has the power to change lives today. This is the timeless story of the richest man in Babylon. Thousands of years ago, long before modern cities, long before banks, long before skyscrapers touched the sky, there stood a city unlike any the world had ever seen. Its name was Babylon, a city surrounded by enormous walls that seemed impossible to conquer. Its streets overflowed with merchants from distant kingdoms. Camel caravans arrived each day carrying silk, spices, precious gems, and gold from every corner of the known world. Magnificent temples rose toward the heavens. Grand palaces displayed unimaginable luxury. The legendary hanging gardens amazed travelers from across the earth. Babylon was the wealthiest city of the ancient world. Its riches were so great that many believed anyone who lived there could become prosperous. But that was far from the truth. For every wealthy merchant counting his fortune, there were thousands of ordinary men and women struggling to earn enough to survive. Among them was a young scribe named Arkad. Day after day, Arkad sat for long hours copying laws, contracts, and records onto clay tablets. His hands grew tired. His back ached. Yet no matter how hard he worked, his purse was always empty. The coins he earned disappeared almost as quickly as they came. He watched wealthy men ride through the city in magnificent chariots. He watched merchants whose warehouses overflowed with treasure. And he could not help but ask himself, what do they know that I do not? One evening, as the sun dipped behind Babylon's towering walls, Arkad sat outside with his closest friend, Bansir, a skilled chariot maker. Bansir had worked tirelessly for years, yet he was no richer than the day he began. Looking around at the city filled with unimaginable wealth, he shook his head in frustration. How is it, he asked, that we live in the richest city on earth, yet our purses remain empty? Why does wealth seem to choose only a few, while the rest of us spend our lives chasing it? Neither of them knew it then, but that simple question was about to change their lives forever, because the answer would lead Arkad on a journey that would transform him from one of the poorest men in Babylon into the richest man the city had ever known. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Arkad continued working as a scribe, carefully copying contracts, laws, and business records onto clay tablets from sunrise until long after sunset. The harder he worked, the more one question haunted his mind. Why did wealth seem to favor some men, while avoiding others? Determined to find the answer, Arkad began asking successful merchants how they had become wealthy. Most simply smiled. Others guarded their secrets. But one name was spoken with admiration throughout Babylon: Algamish, the richest moneylender in the city. His wisdom was legendary, and his fortune was even greater. One day, fate brought the two men together. Algamish entered the scribe's hall carrying an old clay tablet. I need this copied before dawn, he said. I will pay you 2 copper coins. Arkad accepted the work immediately. Hour after hour, he carefully copied every symbol with absolute precision. By midnight, the task was nearly complete. Before leaving, Arkad gathered his courage. Master, he said respectfully, I have fulfilled your request. But instead of paying me with coins, teach me how to become wealthy. The old moneylender paused. For a moment, he simply looked into the young scribe's eyes. Then a small smile appeared across his face. Very well, Algamish replied. You have asked the question that most men are too afraid to ask. He stepped closer and spoke words that would change Arkad's life forever. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. Arkad frowned. But isn't everything I earn already mine? Algamish gently shook his head. No, you pay the merchant. You pay the tailor. You pay the landlord. You pay everyone else. before you ever pay yourself. He picked up one of Arkad's small coins and placed it back into the leather purse. If you wish to build wealth, you must first learn to keep at least 1/10 of everything you earn. Pay yourself first, then live on the rest. It sounded almost too simple, yet Arkad would soon discover that this single habit was the foundation upon which every great fortune is built. Arkad did exactly as Algamish instructed. The next time he received his wages, he resisted the temptation to spend every coin. Instead, he quietly placed 1/10 into his own leather purse. At first, it seemed insignificant, just a single coin. What difference can one coin possibly make, he wondered. But he refused to break the habit. Month after month, the little purse slowly became heavier. For the first time in his life, he owned money that truly belonged to him. When Algamish returned months later, he asked, "What have you done with the coins you kept?" Proudly, Arkad replied, "I invested them with a brickmaker who promised to bring me rare jewels from distant lands." The old moneylender sighed. "You trusted a brickmaker to judge precious stones?" Arkad lowered his head. The brickmaker returned, but the jewels were nothing more than worthless pieces of colored glass. Every coin was gone. Algamish did not become angry. Instead, he smiled. "The first lesson of wealth," he said, "is not merely to save. It is to seek advice only from those who understand the business you wish to enter. The man who makes bricks understands clay, not jewels." Arkad never forgot those words. He began asking experienced merchants before risking a single coin. This time, his savings were invested wisely. Slowly, the coins he had saved began producing more coins. His wealth, though still small, was no longer standing still. Then Algamish gave him another lesson. If your expenses always equal your income, you will forever remain a servant to your wages. So Arkad carefully examined every expense. He discovered that many things he called necessities were simply desires in disguise. Instead of buying everything he wanted, he learned to live below his means. As the years passed, his savings grew larger. His investments became wiser. His confidence became stronger. Then came another lesson. Protect your treasure. Gold is like a frightened traveler. It quickly flees from foolish hands. So Arkad refused risky opportunities. He ignored promises of quick fortunes. He invested only where knowledge, patience, and careful judgment guided his decisions. Before long, his gold was doing something remarkable. It was working while he slept. Each coin earned another coin, and those coins earned still more. The fortune that once seemed impossible began growing almost silently. Years earlier, Arkad believed wealth came from working harder. Now he understood something far more powerful. Hard work earns money, but wise habits create wealth. One simple decision, keeping a portion of every coin he earned, had become the foundation upon which his entire fortune was being built. Years passed. Arkad's fortune continued to grow. Before long, people from every corner of Babylon came seeking his advice. They did not ask how to become rich overnight. They asked how to remain wealthy for a lifetime. Arkad smiled. "Gold," he said, "has laws, just as nature has laws. Learn them, and wealth will gladly remain with you." He began with the first. Gold comes willingly to the person who saves a portion of every income. He pointed toward a young merchant who faithfully placed a few coins into his purse every month. Years later, that small habit had become a fortune. Then Arkad shared the second law. Gold works diligently for its wise owner. He spoke of a merchant who invested patiently instead of hiding his savings beneath his bed. Each year his profits bought new opportunities. Those opportunities produced even greater returns. His money had become another worker in his service. Then came the third law. Gold stays with those who seek wise counsel. Arkad smiled as he remembered his own mistake with the brickmaker. Never ask a fisherman how to build a palace, and never ask a brickmaker how to judge precious jewels. The room filled with quiet laughter, but everyone understood the lesson. The fourth law was spoken with great seriousness. Gold slips away from those who chase impossible profits. He told of a young trader who believed promises of instant riches. Within days, everything he owned had vanished. Greed had blinded his judgment. Finally, Arkad spoke the fifth law. Gold abandons those who force it into work it does not understand. He explained that wealth cannot grow where there is ignorance. Every investment should be guided by knowledge, patience, and careful study. When Arkad finished, the room fell silent. The people realized these were not merely rules for handling money. They were principles for handling life itself. Because fortunes are rarely destroyed by bad luck, they are usually destroyed by impatience, pride, and poor decisions. Arkad looked across the gathering and smiled. The man who masters these laws. After a brief pause, Arkad looked across the gathering. There is another story, he said. A story every investor should remember before risking a single coin. The crowd leaned closer. Years earlier, a wealthy merchant wished to buy a magnificent herd of camels. The owner of the herd was traveling through Babylon and planned to leave before sunrise. It seemed like the opportunity of a lifetime. The merchant became excited. If he acted quickly, he believed he could purchase the camels for an excellent price and sell them later for a handsome profit. But there was one problem. He knew very little about camels. Instead of seeking the advice of experienced camel traders, he asked his closest friends. One was a baker, another was a weaver, another repaired sandals. Each offered an opinion. Each spoke confidently, yet none of them had ever bought or sold a single camel. Believing their advice was enough, the merchant rushed into the purchase. The next morning, the true camel traders arrived. One look at the herd told them everything. Many of the camels were old. Several were sick. Others were too weak to survive long journeys across the desert. The merchant had paid a fortune for animals worth only a fraction of the price. His excitement vanished. His gold was gone. Arkad allowed the silence to settle before speaking again. The mistake was never buying the camels. The mistake was asking the wrong people. If you seek wisdom about ships, ask sailors. If you seek wisdom about gold, ask those who have earned and protected it. The price of ignorance is always higher than the price of patience. The audience nodded quietly. Many realized they had made the very same mistake in different ways. Some had trusted friends instead of experts. Others had followed rumors instead of knowledge. Arkad smiled gently. The wise investor is never in a hurry. He would rather lose an opportunity than lose his gold. And in Babylon, that lesson alone had saved many fortunes. As the gathering slowly came to an end, the people rose and returned to their homes. But they did not leave carrying gold. They left carrying something far more valuable: understanding. Arkad remained where he was, quietly watching the sun set over Babylon. The city had not changed. Its streets were still filled with opportunity. Its markets were still crowded with merchants. Its treasures still belonged to those who understood how to keep them. Then Arkad smiled, because he finally understood a truth that few people ever discover. Wealth is never built in a single day. It is built one decision at a time. One coin saved, one wise investment, one unnecessary expense avoided, one patient choice repeated again and again and again. That is how ordinary people become extraordinary. Thousands of years have passed since Babylon stood at the height of its glory. Its walls have crumbled. Its palaces have disappeared. Its markets have fallen silent. But the principles that created wealth there still govern wealth today. The tools may have changed. The currencies may be different. The world may move faster than ever before. But human nature has not changed. People still spend before they save. They still chase quick riches. They still seek advice from the wrong people. And many still believe wealth belongs only to the lucky. But Arkad proved otherwise. Fortune is rarely the reward of luck. More often, it is the reward of discipline, patience, wisdom, and habits practiced faithfully over many years. Perhaps the richest person in Babylon was never truly remembered because of the gold he possessed. Perhaps he was remembered because he discovered something far more valuable: that every great fortune begins with a single habit, and every habit begins with a single decision. The decision you make today may determine the wealth you build tomorrow.